Come to Cooking with Abba. If you're a fan of Egusi or melon seeds, this is a super Egusi stew you want to do, or Egusi stew you want to do. And this is done in two ways with fish, pure fish, just in case you don't want to do protein or you have issue with gut and you want to just fish. This is the fish version. I also have the meat version, or the typical cow-based version. Yes, the meat version as well. And I really love you to try this egusi stew recipe as well. So like I said, this is in two types. If you want to go pure fish, if you want to go pure meat, all of it is on this channel and you'd really love this recipe. So to kickstart, I'm going to use beetroot, onions, tomatoes, pepper, ginger, garlic for my stew base. Yes, people don't usually go in with the beetroot, but it has its extra taste, extra color it gives, extra texture it gives. So you may not even need to use tomato paste in there. So yes, that is the trick I go. And so for the fish version, I've got smoked fish, the tuna types. I've got the Kako. Yes, Kako. What's the English name for Kako? How do you call Kako in your local dialect? Let me know. I also have some dried herrings as well. So this is going to be for my fish-based recipe. Let me know how you call Kako in your language. You can use other options like salted tilapia, what we call Koobi. And then I have my Kontomire leaves, Taro leaves, how you want to call it. And then my star ingredients is my Augushie seeds or my melon seeds, which has been already unhusked. Yes, so these are the whole grain ones. You can also decide to go with the blended one already, or the powdered one. Just like these days on the market, they tend to adulterate it. Then I've got some spice because of the meat-based ones I was going to do. So for the meat-based one, I had my cow meat, which had a bit of the cow skin or the wele already in there, because if you do this without the wele, you can get the vibe. And then I also had some towel, the cow towel in there as well. And these are the main things that I used in there. So the towel, and then the meat, and then the meat with the willy. So to begin off, I washed the meat to keep it clean. This was fresh meat, yes, and it's good to get it with the willy. If you don't get it with the willy, you can buy the willy and add up to it. That also adds more vibe to your egusi stew once you make it. And you want to wash this to keep it clean and then reduce the blood in there as well. So when I'm cooking it, usually what I do is I put the skin down so that the skin will cook first, because the skin takes longer to cook than even the meat itself. Then for the towel, it's on my channel how to clean your towel. You can use the hot water to clean it, and how to even get all the sand and things out. You can check it out on my channel. But for this one, it was store-bought, and the store-bought ones are usually already cleaned, unlike the ones you get from the butcher's direct, which is straight from the cow. And once you're done, you have to also cut it into sizes which you are more comfortable with it. Then I washed it and then placed it at the top. The towel doesn't take long to cook like the meat and then the willy. So once I'm done, I just place in some garlic and then some ginger, and then I added in my local spices and salt. And to help me cook this within the shortest possible time, I pour some hot water in, and then I just place it onto fire for it to cook. For my agushi, I had to wash it because, yes, in as much as the skin has been removed, handling, sometimes in the market, a lot of dust and all those things, and you may have some which is not good in, you may have some of the shells also in, so it's good to also wash it with water to get rid of all of them. Then once I'm done washing, I just go into my blender and I'm going to blend it. You can also decide to blend it dry if it's coming from a good source where there's no dirt, there's no dust. You can blend it dry. When you blend it dry, it also helps you because you reduce the water that goes in, which gives you a good consistency. Because I was not blending it dry, obviously more water would have to go in depending on the type of blender I was using. So I added in some eggs to also help with the consistency. Else you finish and then everything is all like smooth in there. For your egusi stew, you want to get a bit of lumps in there to enjoy as well. So once that is blended, I put that also aside, and then I blend my vegetables. So use enough pepper as you want. Use your tomatoes, your onion goes in to sweeten it. My addition was the beetroot. I used beetroot, like I said. Beetroot gives you good color beetroot gives you more texture. And when you use beetroot, you don't even have to use tin tomato or tomato mix because it's already giving you everything you need in your tomato mix. Then you're going to blend this with just a little bit of water, and then you get it all done in there. So once everything is all set, everything is all prepped, my saucepans go on fire. So I wanted to show you how to do both the two at a go. So yes, the one was for the fish paste and one was for the meat paste. So I poured in my oil, and then as my oil was melting up, these days I always say don't overly heat your oil as you also degrade it. I just pour in my blended stock into it. It doesn't take too long, so I just divided them into two, and then I allowed it to start cooking together. You can cut in some onions into having some chunky onions, but you can also wait when you're about finishing, then you put in your onions. It's up to you how you want to go about it. So I'm just going to give it a little stir as well. And because this is very thick, it doesn't really take too long to cook. That's the thing. And so as it's cooking up, I'm going to also, as it starts reducing and the bubbles become smaller, I put in the Kako and then the very dried herrings, because it's very, very dry. The very dried herrings are dried to make it very, very crisp. And so it needs to go in early so that it can soften up. Else you finish and then your herrings are very, very chewy and hard, and it can even prick you when you're chewing it. So before your stew cooks, put it in early. And you know the Kako has a bit of salt, so that also helps you check your salt in as you're cooking it. And I'm just going to keep up with the two, cooking it over low heat. And around this point, my meat was already cooking already. I had already cooked the meat aside, because if you don't cook the meat before you put it in, you'd have issues as well. So once the sauce had reduced midway, I then added in my proteins to it. I have not added in salt because these days the smoked fish, as they are smoking, they salt it before they smoke. So if you put in salt before, you may end up having too much salty kind of stew. And I needed extra water in because I realized it was overly thick. The Augushie has not even come in and it's come like gravy. So I had to add in extra water. But for the meat-based one, because the meat had the stock around it, you realized I didn't have to add in any extra water. And I'm also letting it cook together so that the flavor of the vegetable sauce I had done will go into the meat. Then you can feel that taste in there. So when I tasted, the salt was a bit less, so I added in extra salt in there. So like I said, if you don't have the Wele together with the meat, you can buy separate Wele and then do it as well. So the meat one, I also tasted for the salt, and then I added in a little bit of salt, and then I just stirred and allowed it to also come together beautifully as well. So you realize that because I use a beetroot, I get a very good texture, a good color, and so you may not even have to add in any tomato mix or tomato paste. They're already store-made ones, and once it cooks to reduce, the bubbles are down. That means that your stew is virtually ready. That is the trick about cooking African meals. We use more of the texture. Once it's reducing and the bubbles go down, then you know that, oh, Charlie, the thing is virtually dead. So I just put in the Augushie in the middle. Don't overly spread it, else you won't get good results. And then I put the Kontomire or the Taro leaves, the cocoyam leaves on top of it. It's optional. If you don't like it too, you can decide to omit it. That also gives you some beauty as well and adds more nutrients to it as well. For females, especially after your menses, you need to restock your iron levels and all those ones. And so it's good to be eating this, especially after your menses as a female, to, regenerate your body as well. So I put in the leaves because as you cover it, the heat is going to also cook it up. So you don't have to pre-cook before it goes in. Then I'm going to just stir as the leaf softens to make sure that it is all mixed together beautifully. And you can add in more leaves if you feel it's not looking how you want it. If you don't want leaves in at all too, you can go that way as well. So yes, just make sure that you prep everything. And I don't really support cooking your leaves before you put it in, honestly, because the heat itself will cook your leaves for you. And I'm going to mix this beautifully into it. And you see, you still have the lumps in because of the egg support I gave to it. Because these days, the Augushie that has come, some of them, whatever you do, you won't get it very lumpy. So these days, sometimes you just have to add in a little bit of egg for you to get that good result as well. Then I cover it up for it to finish cooking. Augushie doesn't really take too long to cook. Within 5-10 minutes, it is done. That is the thing. So you don't have to really be so much worried. Once you realize the heat is going in and then the leaves are softening, the Augushie itself, you realize that once it cooks, it even doubles or swells up as well. You can also taste and be sure that it is well cooked. And then I added in just a little bit of extra oil for it to look a bit good, because I realized my oil was very much less. These days, because of issues with cholesterol, hypertension, and all those things, it's good to check your salt intake and then your oil intake, so you don't use excess oil. It's always good to check all of them as you're cooking as well. You want to be as healthy as possible. So yes, once I'm done with that, I'm just going to cover it up and then let it also continue the cooking process. And like I said, taste it to be sure your salt is okay. Taste it to be sure your Augushie is cooked before you turn it off. And then once it's done, you let it cool down and you can dish it out into your serving bowls, and you can freeze it. You can also keep it in the fridge and you can consume. So I ate it with some air fried plantain as well, which reduces your oil intake, and I ate it with some rice as well. So yes, this is a very healthy meal, and I hope you did learn something new from this Augushie recipe, and I hope you do try it out at home and let me know whether the added beetroot gave you some extra result or you loved the taste and flavor using these ingredients as well. Till I see you in the next food video, do live life to the fullest, be joyous, be merry. Lots of love for my team and I.